So we've been fielding a lot of different questions about a golden visa. We decided to apply for a golden visa in Europe, and we did not know that we would have this many questions brought to us from Facebook friends to close friends, family, even our vendors and our colleagues. It's been really interesting to see the number of people that are really interested in this, kind of want to know what it is, why you would choose to get this, and why you chose the country you chose. So I thought today we could talk about what a golden visa is and kind of answer those questions. So yeah, so we've been researching a golden visa for a number of years. Basically what a golden visa does is if you make a certain investment or if you start a business, there's usually 3 or 4 different kind of paths that will get you a permanent visa in another country. So currently in the United States, as a US citizen, we can visit Europe for 90 days every 180 days. So there has to be a gap. So the previous 180-day look back, you can only have been in the country in all the European Union for 90 days. And while that's not necessarily a problem for us while we're in work mode and just kind of using Europe as a tourist base to kind of hang out for summers and that sort of thing to escape this lovely South Florida heat, we want to eventually be able to spend more than 90 days in a row in Europe and in a particular country and kind of put down roots, if you will, in another country. So the Golden Visa program has been our sort of way to explore that. And we've looked at Portugal, we've looked at Spain, we've looked at a number of different countries. And they're all somewhat similar, but slightly different. So for instance, in Spain, you have to spend a different dollar amount than you do in Portugal. Portugal is actually in the process of winding down or closing their program. The European Union is really putting pressure on their member countries to get rid of these programs because they're oftentimes used by unscrupulous individuals to move money and to gain EU access.
Unscrupulous?
Unscrupulous, is that a word? I think it is. So think about like Russian, money laundering and like dark money and things like that. They're often used by different countries that have sort of, a shadowy banking system and things like that. Not like the US, where everything we do is highly scrutinized, highly regulated, and that sort of thing. But unfortunately, a few bad apples kind of spoil it for everyone, and those programs are really being taken down, or at least drawn down dramatically. There's a couple of other negatives to the programs in the eyes of the locals. So for instance, in Portugal, there was a lot of pushback from citizens that were residents of Lisbon and residents of Porto. Those are the 2 big kind of cities in Portugal. And the residents said, you're driving up our housing costs. We have thousands of these golden visa people coming in, paying cash for property. They're taking away available housing stock. And I think that's a legitimate...
and the same thing is happening in Spain as well.
Yeah, the same thing's happening in Spain. Spain's program was never as appealing as Portugal's as far as what they give you and the kind of the fast track to things. So basically, in Portugal's case, you can purchase a property in Portugal. At one point, it was as low as 350,000 euros. You could purchase a property, say in Lisbon. You could even Airbnb that property out. You only had to visit Portugal once a year for 7 days. And after 5 years, you could become a citizen of Portugal and renounce your US citizenship or keep dual citizenship. You could do sort of a number of things. Portugal also had a favored tax system for these golden visa holders. So there was really a lot of draws to that program. But we explored Portugal, and it really wasn't the country for us necessarily. We absolutely love Portugal. Love it. But we decided we wanted to be on the Iberian Peninsula still, but on the East Coast. And really for us, we started, I think we made our 7th trip to Barcelona this summer and really spent, how long were we there for? 2 weeks?
Barcelona, yeah.
Yeah, I think we spent 2 weeks in Barcelona, maybe a little over 2 weeks, and really, dug into the city, got to know it really well, went and did things that tourists don't do, like explore medical facilities, and just did a lot of things that we set up a bank account, did a lot of the kind of the day-to-day stuff that you're actually going to do if you live somewhere. So we really wanted the full picture of it. For us, where Barcelona and Spain is located is, well, not the entirety of Spain, but that Barcelona kind of corridor within an hour or so of Barcelona is really perfect for us with the international airport, you have the cruise port, you have a lot of things that our family and friends would come to visit, and they've got a lot of activities to do.
Yeah.
But we felt that Barcelona proper was a little too New York City-ish for us. It's a little bit, we love big cities to visit and to go shopping and to go do all the tourist stuff, but we ultimately like to kind of be out of that environment when it comes to long periods of time. We find it kind of tiring. We live in Fort Lauderdale on the beach, or on the intercoastal rather, and we go to Miami like to have a weekend or a fun night out and crazy restaurants and all that sort of thing, but we much prefer sort of the calmer nature of Fort Lauderdale and sort of a mid-sized city. So that was our exploratory trip. So I guess to answer the question is, what is a golden visa? A golden visa grants you access typically on an unlimited basis to the country that you've gotten the visa in. So we could choose to remain in Spain, which is where we are applying for our golden visa. We could end up staying there indefinitely. You never have to leave. Their program as far as citizenship is much longer. It's 10 years of full-time residency will get you access to applying to be a naturalized citizen, which would allow you to, renounce your US citizenship if you wanted, and allow you to sort of move forward as a Spanish individual, which is kind of cool. Their program is highly regulated. Spain is known for being sort of a bureaucratic state. So as far as things we've had to do, it's been quite a checklist. We will probably make another video on all the different things. Once you've decided to pull the trigger and Spain is your country and you want to do the golden visa, get this stuff in order, because we did not quite...
A lot of paperwork.
Yeah, it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of things that aren't really well translated here. Like they will say, do this and do this. And then you talk to a lot of different people here. You call the embassy here in Miami, the Spanish embassy, and they don't know what they're talking about. And it was the embassy in Barcelona that told us to do this. And so it's a lot of unique things, and we've learned that there's not always the most efficient way of getting things done in Spain. You oftentimes just have to get lots of stuff and bring your bundle of papers and drop it on somebody's desk and let them sift through it. The more stuff you have and the more official it looks, the more likely you are to kind of move through the process, as opposed to coming with just a single paper. So that has been, that is what the golden visa is allows us access that exceeds 90 days with the ability that if things go haywire in the US politically, or whatever may happen, Civil War #2, whatever is coming up in the US, it allows us the ability to have another country that we can claim residency in, and you have a permanent residence situation on offer to you in this country as long as you maintain the underlying asset, which in our case is 3 pieces of real estate that we purchased. So we actually go back in September next month to close on everything. We'll make application, or formal application. We'll take all the paperwork, which is currently sitting on the kitchen island. We will bundle all that stuff up, take it with us to Spain, and we will apply for that visa. And the program is pretty quick as long as you have a clean FBI background check, as long as you've got the all the checkbox stuff lined up. You have to have Spanish healthcare situated. You've got to have an NIE number, which is basically
Social security number?
Yeah, like a social security number. So we have all of that. You have to have a bank account. We've got all that stuff set up, and so we will make that application with our Spanish attorney, and then typically within 30 to 90 days, you actually have the application. So we will, or have the visa approval, I should say. So we should have that before the holidays this year, which is pretty cool. The initial visa that's offered in Spain is a 2-year visa. And so basically these are, kind of think of them as like probationary, if you will. Like you're given your initial 2-year visa, and then they're going to...
So you get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. If you are, if you've got a criminal situation, if you've got DUIs, if you're, causing fights in the street, things like that. If you sell the real estate, that is the underlying asset that allows you to hold the golden visa. If you break any sort of rules, basically, they're not going to renew your visa. So you have an initial 2-year, and then the renewal is a little bit fuzzy depending on who you talk to. You can get a 5-year renewal. Some people say a 3-year renewal, and it depends on where you apply for the renewal from. So if we go back to the Miami embassy, the Miami Spanish embassy, and apply for it again as a renewal, it's a different term than if we go to the Barcelona Spanish embassy. So really weird, but we'll sort of navigate that as we go. But that is what the golden visa allows us to do. It also allows you to work in Spain. So as a tourist, you can decide you want to, say you're retiring, you can get a pensioner's visa. It's also called a non-lucrative visa. And that's different than the golden visa. Downsides of that are the fact that you have to become a tax resident of Spain, which was not something we wanted to do. We want to stay less than 6 months a year in Spain. We might stay 4 or 5 months at a time, even 6 months at a time. But by day 183, which is half of the year, we will be leaving Spain because we don't want to have to file Spanish tax returns on our global income. So
Say 182.
182. Yeah, we'll probably leave a day earlier. If you do stay in Spain more than 182 days a year, more than 183, I don't know, it's either 182 or 183, you do have to file a tax return on your worldwide income. And then you have to kind of get that through tax treaties to sync up with the US. And basically, you're going to owe your US taxes, as you always will in the US. The US is one of the few countries where you pay on your worldwide income unless you renounce your citizenship. So the US, they call it a sticky tax situation. You cannot avoid the US. You can't move to Cayman Islands and stop paying taxes, or tax haven type country. The US, you're always gonna pay to have that great passport that we have. That basically we'll be staying less than 183 days a year, and that will allow us the ability then to not file taxes in Spain. We do own a rental property in Spain, or part of this closing in September is a rental property, so we will pay taxes on that rental property. And that's relatively easy for non-EU residents, which is us. We pay a flat 24% income tax on rental income, so it's not too bad. And for EU residents, it's 19, I believe, is the flat tax for EU residents that purchase investment property in Spain. So that is the Golden Visa. That's what it allows. We travel with the dog, which I don't think you can really see him, but he's laying down right here on his back. We travel with the dogs. We thought that every summer, probably around May or June, we will exit South Florida's hurricane season. We'll fly to Barcelona. We will take a train to the city that we bought our property in, and we'll hang out there for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. I may have to come back and forth a few times to work, but Steed and Oliver, our little puppy, can stay put in the town and enjoy themselves. And so that's our plan, and that's why we did the Golden Visa. Was there any other reason, like for you, that was appealing to do the Golden Visa versus the 90-day stays?
I mean, like you said, we've been there for 7 times or more. I think we've kind of lost count over the years. Every time we go, we love it. We love Barcelona, like you said, but I think ultimately being outside of a big city is great. It's the proximity of where that region is. Catalonia is just a couple hours from France, and you can hop a flight to anywhere in Europe, within a couple hours. And I don't know, the people are so warm, and the culture is so wonderful. We always feel very welcome and feel like we're kind of at home. It's kind of like being abroad, but being home. So that's always a wonderful feeling, and we just find ourselves always wanting to go back. And I think, I don't know, we always live by what makes us feel good, and Spain makes us feel good. So
yes, it's a very relaxed and easy place to live. It definitely takes some getting used to, as far as the capitalist nature of Americans is not ingrained in their people at all. You can go to a cafe and order a $2 coffee or €2 coffee, and the cafe owner will not care if you hang out for 30 minutes or 3 hours. There's no concept of like turning the tables, or it's just such a different mentality. And it's very much, the apartments or the flats, as they call them, are relatively small. So the idea is that everyone's out in the center squares. They're all kind of interacting with one another. And it's such a different experience than, say, the American kind of bedroom community, the cul-de-sac life. Everyone comes home, closes the garage door, sits at home, watches TV, goes to work the next day, and then kind of rinse and repeat endlessly. Spanish life is just so different. It's such a unique way of doing business and doing life. And work is just, it's a part of their life for sure. And it takes up, hours just like it does for us here in America, but it's not, for instance, in conversation, we're so used to meeting somebody and saying, "Oh, what kind of work do you do?" And they're like, "What?" That question is very strange to ask somebody. You would ask, are they from the area? How long they live there? Background questions. But work-related background questions are considered way down the list. That's once you've really gotten to have a lengthy conversation, or maybe your second or third time of meeting somebody, you would talk about that sort of thing. But really, the first thing in conversation is family, food, location. That's, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
That's definitely their tops would be, family. We looked at a flat, and it was a lovely, amazing property, and it was owned by, I would say they were in their 70s, an older couple. and they took like so much delight in sharing all the family photos with us that were on the wall, and the story about how long the kids and the grandkids and everyone has been coming to the flat and spending time with them. And so that's kind of number one priority when it comes to like conversations in Spain, is stuff related to family, leisure, vacation, that sort of thing. So that that's really the biggest appeal, I think, for Spain. In addition, the weather, the Barcelona airport is pretty awesome. Like I mentioned, the cruise ports, when we have family and friends come to visit us, it was important, just as we have in South Florida, there's a lot of stuff for folks to do. It kind of acts as a natural draw, so you're not having to say, please come visit us, and there's nothing to do when you get here. There's a ton of stuff to do, and so that was a big draw for us. Another draw when it comes to Spain in particular is, while the taxes are high, the ongoing carrying costs once you have the visa and once you own the property are very low. So Spanish property taxes are very low, insurance, everything that you're going to do once healthcare, once you pay cash for the property, let's say, everything else that you do and that you need is going to be relatively affordable. The food, the wine is cheaper than water. Pretty much everything you're going to need is going to be much more affordable than what you're used to, especially, our South Florida prices are pretty high. So it's definitely a savings that way, and an easy place to sort of vacation and not be hemorrhaging money as opposed to like the south of France or a big city like even Barcelona is more expensive, but certainly like a Paris or, kind of a top tier city. And we love those cities. They just don't appeal to us from a living standpoint, with a mobbed with tourists every summer and that sort of thing. So we thought also that Barcelona is such a great jumping off point. It's a 2.5-hour flight to Morocco. I think it's 3.5 to Egypt. All the different places you can go outside of the EU. It's really limitless, and it's so accessible to everything that part of the country has, that part of the world has to offer.
We love to travel. Anyone looking to move to Spain probably does as well, but that's something that is just, we would rather travel than almost anything else. And so being in a place that allows us to be able to do that is such a great thing for us, because from the United States, not that there's not great cities to go in the United States, but it takes so long to get anywhere. It would take us a couple hours to get to North Carolina from Florida, but in a couple hours we could be in, Turkey or, about anywhere, which is really
Greece, Rome, Turkey. It's amazing within a 1 to 3 hour flight.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing all the different cities you can be in.
I think something like you said a few minutes ago, we spent almost a couple months in Spain this summer. We went to a couple other places as well, but we almost spent a couple months there. And I would say there was only a handful of days that we kind of stayed in for that day, or didn't go out and do too much. Mm-hmm. It's such a walking society. All of Europe is. And so we find ourselves just easily very active, and that's something that we really enjoy. We enjoy getting out and walking around and taking the dog with us, and sitting in cafes and watching people and just all of that sort of stuff. And there was probably, I could probably count on one hand that we were less mobile, but most days we're walking 5 to 10 miles very easily. That's very, very easy for us to do, not because we have to get from point A to point B, but just because we enjoy exploring and walking around, and that just really speaks to us. So
yeah, and I'll share this in another video, but we made a spreadsheet of kind of our requirements and our needs and wants, as well as all the different cities and countries that we visited, sort of the pros and cons of each of those, whether they have a golden visa program or similar. We went everywhere. We've been to Mexico City, we've been to Ecuador, we have been, we've tried South America, we've looked all over the Caribbean at the different islands. A lot of those have some really great programs from a tax perspective, but ultimately, the quality of life wasn't there for us on a year-round basis. We just don't want to be in the sweltering heat, deal with the hurricanes. Sort of the culture was not a great fit with us.
Maybe healthcare.
Healthcare was a concern on small islands. So anyways, we will make a spreadsheet, and I will share this with you, kind of our different findings and all the different countries we explored and that sort of thing. Ecuador was a surprising country for us. We did spend, I think, 2.5 or 3 weeks there. And if we were going to stay in this kind of part of the world, which if you want to stay in the time zone or within an hour, I think, of the time zone, Ecuador, Mexico City, there's some great options that way. but I'm not going to kind of get into that right now. We can talk about that in another video. But we explored Italy's Golden Visa program. We explored Greece's, Portugal. We really looked at everyone that had these programs, even countries that had simply a long-term residency program and not a Golden Visa. Those were all things that we kind of looked into, and Spain was it for us. Like Steve mentioned, the amazing weather, the outdoor culture, the friendliness of the people, that we found matters a lot more than we initially anticipated. We sort of thought, oh, we'll always make friends. But we spent many weeks in different European countries and cities and really didn't feel like we connected with people. We felt like it was very hard in Paris to make friends. Everyone seems like they're kind of annoyed with you. And so that was not something that really worked for us. We spent time in Austria. We loved Salzburg, but Vienna didn't work at all. And then the weather, in addition, wasn't a fit.
I think that's generally something in big cities, though. It's not like, I mean, I guess when you go to New York, you can probably make some friends, but it's a tourist. It's like, there's a huge influx of people that are there visiting all the time. And not that the city that we have bought our flat in Spain isn't a place that people enjoy going. It's a huge beach town.
Not a huge beach town.
No, but like all the
prominent beach town.
Yeah, all the local Spaniards like going there. I would say with most big cities, it's harder to meet people because it's a lot more hustle and bustle, and so getting out of the big cities. But that's, I think, country
well, especially like we visited Barcelona and we've stayed in the Gothic district, we stayed in Gran Via, we stayed in, is it called La Rambla, the main kind of streets. When you're in those sort of areas, definitely like it's tourist trap central. They don't care, they just want to turn the table and they want to make money. But gosh, you go 3 or 4 blocks, even in Barcelona, you go a few blocks off the main kind of tourist trap areas, and we had people, we went someplace for brunch a couple of times and she remembered us by our second visit and was greeting the dog by name and that sort of thing. So it still is.
Everyone knows Oliver's name.
Everyone knows Oliver's name. Maybe he'll make an appearance at some point. But that's sort of the cultural thing that we really appreciate, especially if you're going to make a huge jump eventually. We intend at some point to retire, sell our businesses, and move eventually on a permanent basis to Spain. And so for us, the friendliness, I think if you look at the top 10 reasons why expats end up going back to their home country, loneliness is really high up on the list. And so not feeling isolated, not feeling lonely was definitely something that we really wanted to make sure was going to be the case. As much as we love like German punctuality and German directness and everything else that they give, we didn't find it super like warm and fuzzy as far as like an environment to hang out and socialize in. So anyways, we've been places, we've kicked the tires, we have now made deposits, non-refundable deposits on 3 places in Spain, and we go back mid-September to close. So that is what the Golden Visa program is in a nutshell. Again, I'll make a video about our different countries and cities that we explored, pros and cons of those, as well as sort of our wish list as far as what the end place had to have from a weather perspective, traffic perspective, proximity to airports, that sort of thing. But I hope this was helpful, and hopefully everything continues to move along for us. And
if you have any questions, leave us a comment.
Drop a comment if you have any questions, and we're happy to help. We didn't realize, when we posted all this, that we would have this much engagement and this much interest just on like social media. But gosh, I got probably a dozen or so people reaching out asking for questions just on Facebook alone. So I guess it's more popular, more interesting than we anticipated. But yeah, if you have any questions, please reach out.